okay, so Miami has these guys in the class already, 22 commits. Who are some guys that we're looking at that we're going to be battling for when the dead period ends? Dead period ends on January 11th. Visits start on January the 13th. So there's 3 visit weekends between now and National Signing Day, the 13th, the 20th, and the 27th. And maybe kids are going to come on midweek visits as well, if they have visits to take, because every kid is allotted 5 official visits. And an official visit is one that is fully paid for by the school. They pay for your travel, they pay for your lodging, food, they put you up, they show you a good time. This year, a new twist is they can bring your parents with you as well, if you so choose, because you want to have all the decision makers in one spot, obviously. So if you're somebody like a DJ Johnson who hails from Sacramento, California, being able to bring your brother and father and uncle, or those decision makers in your family, those adults who are going to be there in your corner, because obviously blood is thicker than water and family comes first. So and that's just what I believe. But if you can bring your family with you, then that kind of settles things, especially when you're going to be moving potentially 2,400 miles away from home. But I think that there are a couple of guys at the top of the list for Miami that we're chasing right now. The first one is a running back from DeMatha Catholic in Hyattsville, Maryland. His name is Anthony McFarland Jr. He is not the son of Anthony Booger McFarland, who went to LSU. Different Anthony McFarland, but same name. 5'9", 205 pounds, dynamic player, both at running back and in space. He made it to the opening night premier recruiting camp by playing wide receiver, not by playing in regional. That's what to do. Unfortunately, he broke his leg in his team's kickoff classic early in the game, and then missed the entirety of his senior season. But he's an electric player who can impact the game in a number of areas. He was being recruited by Alabama and Maryland, as well as Miami. He had named Miami as his favorites in a couple of recruiting interviews. There's also talk that his mother really wants him to be at Miami as opposed to anywhere else. Recently, he canceled his upcoming official visit to Alabama and is down to Miami and Maryland. If you're looking at predictions and things like on 24/7 Sports Crystal Ball, where recruiting writers and people who follow recruiting can put in their predictions of where kids are going to go, even Maryland insiders who thought and recently said, okay, it's really down to Miami and Maryland and it's about 50-50. Even people who cover the University of Maryland, they put in their picks for McFarland to come to Miami. So we do have another running back in this class, and I have an article coming up on Friday morning, our class breakdown, where I take a monthly look at the recruits in this class and everything. So be sure you check that out on stateoftheu.com. And there's been 6 or 7 months previous that I've done one a month, so you can see how the class has developed over time. But McFarland, I fully expect to be in this class. I don't see any reason why he would not be. So that's a battle that I think Miami will win if they have not already won. Mark Richt and Thomas Brown, again, head coach and offensive coordinator, have both hinted or said at media availabilities that they have guys who are committed who have not gone public with it yet. Hinting at silent commits, i.e. they've told the coaching staff, but not anybody publicly. And Mark Richt said we have 2 running backs committed in this class at one particular media availability. And by NCAA rules, they cannot name student athlete or recruits. So they can't say, oh, we have Mark and Cam and Dante. They can't name the kids. But if you publicly have said, okay, Robert Burns is going to be, he's a running back recruit and he's coming in this class, already signed his grad and aid. He's going to be an early enrollee coming to campus next week with DJ Dallas and other guys. So you already know that there's one guy and nothing else out there. And you're saying, oh, we have 2 running backs committed. Then, that kind of piques up people's interest. So I do believe that if McFarland is not already silently committed, he's going to commit to Miami. At wide receiver, there are 2 guys who we're looking at really strongly. One is Devonte Smith. He's a 5-star recruit from Amite, Louisiana. He was committed to Richt when he was at Georgia last year, and then decommitted, obviously, following Richt's firing and everything. And it's been a battle with him. He's a dynamic playmaker. He's, the kind of kid that can come in and play right away. 5-star kid, 6'1", 170 pounds. Needs to add a little bit of weight and strength, but when you have the speed and moves of a Devonte Smith, I mean, you don't need to be the biggest Hulk in the world. He's down to LSU, the hometown team. He's going to visit them on January 13th. Alabama, who's the projected leader for him, on the 20th, and then Miami last on the 27th. And I know everybody, myself included, thinks that Alabama is the team to beat there. But Smith, he's come out and said, look, I'm really honestly interested in Miami. He was committed to Mark Richt as a person and the head coach over at Georgia previously. Obviously, Todd Hartley, tight ends coach, and Thomas Brown, offensive coordinator, and Gus Felder, the strength and conditioning coach. All those guys worked previously at Georgia. So he might have a connection with them as well. So Miami is in the game. I'm not going to say that we're at the forefront with Devonte Smith, but in the game there. Other wide receiver is electric playmaker whose name you might have just learned, Jeff Thomas from East St. Louis, Illinois, who is lightning in a bottle in a way that few are. And if you think, okay, wait, I think I know that name, go back and look at the highlights from the Under Armour All-American game. He's the kid who had 2 touchdowns, one of 44 yards where he ran through the defense. Then he had a 79-yarder where he did the same thing. His shortest catch was 25 yards, and then he also had a 45-yard kickoff return as well. This kid is really electric, 5'10", 170 pounds. He just has moves on moves. You get him in the open space and dangerous. He had some academic issues previously, got kicked off his high school team, got kicked out of the Under Armour All-American game. But recentered himself, quit doing whatever he was doing, got his academics back on track, got back on his high school team, obviously got back in the Under Armour All-American game. And Miami, from all reports, has been checking on him for a while now. Like, obviously, it kind of just came out at an interview at Under Armour All-American game that he named Miami as a team that he was connected to. But from everything that I've read and seen reported, Miami was working kind of behind the scenes on Jeff Thomas for a while. So he's going to come and visit on January the 20th. He named Illinois as his leading school because he's from East St. Louis, which is in Illinois. And they were the team that was recruiting him the hardest throughout all of his trials and travails. So it stands to reason that he's there at the top. But he said that he's going to take his visits, and his visits are really going to decide where he's going to end up. And he's the electric kind of playmaker that Miami needs. Mark Richt came into Florida and got Joystick McKenzie from American Heritage. And I think that Jeff Thomas could be the Hurricanes version of Joystick McKenzie. He has that kind of ability, that kind of explosion on the ball or on the offensive side, and also returning kicks. So that would be great. The last guy that I'm going to look at as a projected player or prospect who could end up here at Miami, let's go with, there's so many guys. Let's circle back on Hunter Eckles, 4-star from Los Angeles, California, defensive end, 6'4", 230, committed to USC. But he's going to come out also and visit to Miami. He's going to come on January the 13th, along with DJ Johnson and a bunch of other recruits for that first official visit weekend. And then he's going to back that up by going to USC, the team is committed to, on the 20th. So Hunter Eckles has maintained that he is honestly interested in Miami, that this is not just a free vacation visit. And I think that the current staff is doing a better job of curtailing those free visits, those ones of guys who are not really looking at Miami at all, but they just kind of want to go to Coral Gables. They want to see, oh, what are the girls down here in Miami looking like? This staff is cutting that down. And Hunter Eckles is a guy who could definitely slot in with DJ Johnson, Jonathan Garvin, and Jonathan Ford on the defensive line and play early at Miami and also raise the level of talent. So those are some guys. And I got one more. Sorry. I know I said I was going to do the last one, but the last one, and I promise the last one, is a JUCO kid named Javante Dean. He's a 6'2", 180-pound cornerback. He goes to Blinn, I want to say, Community College out in Texas. But he is originally from Homestead, Florida, down on Exit 1, South Dade High School. That's guys like Ermon Lane at Florida State was from Homestead. Tyree Brady, who came to Miami and then transferred away. He's from South Dade. Also, Joe Jackson lived in Homestead but went to Gulliver Prep, way down in Miami. But Dean is a 4-star kid committed to Alabama, but it's looking like he might not actually have a spot in Alabama's class. So as they're really tight on scholarships, because, Nick Saban is the king of oversigning every single year, if they've started hitting on some of their other defensive back targets, Alabama, that is. So he might not actually have a spot at Alabama, and looking to replace, Corn Elder and the Adrian Colbert and the Rayshon Jenkins and Jamal Carter off of the defensive backfield this year. Dean could come in and play day one at Miami. Obviously, he's from here. has the skill set to play here, has used his 2 years in community college really to develop his skills. He was not a known caliber recruit coming out of high school, but has really developed himself. So, like we talked about earlier, player progression is a key to success in college football, and Javante Dean really used his time well to commit himself to progressing as a player. So, between Anthony McFarland, who I really fully expect to be in this class, Devonte Smith and Jeff Thomas at wide receiver, who, either one would be a great add. And there's a couple other wide receivers we're looking at. Again, my class breakdown article, you should be sure to read it on Friday when it comes out, January the 6th. But those are the top two guys there, Hunter Eckles and Javante Dean. Between those five guys, man, if we get even two of those guys two additional ones on top of McFarland, because McFarland's coming. I'm really confident about that. But so if we end up with 3 or 4 out of those total 5 recruits, that's a big win for Miami. And I think that's the kind of close that we really need to keep propelling the momentum forward that Thomas Brown and others have said that has come to the forefront after winning our bowl game. I want to see it on the recruiting trail. And those are some guys where that momentum will pay off.
As Cam mentions, Javante Dean at 6'2", 180, the number 1 rated cornerback in junior college by all the major services, number 8 overall junior college prospect, regardless of position. Cam Underwood, State of the U, breaking down all sorts of updates on the Canes. So we always appreciate it, Cam.
Yeah, this was a really fun conversation. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon.